Right, so the Global Group on Earth Observation Summit is taking place in Cape Town, and it'll focus on young people being at the forefront of the fight against climate change. The GEO Summit is also expected to share Earth observation data to tackle climate change and the loss of biodiversity. Our reporter Mariska Botha joins us live from the Southern. Mariska, good morning to you. I mean, it must be so exciting to see some of the young minds contributing to this all-important global discussion as well.
Absolutely, Naledi. Of course, there can be no discussion about the future of Earth without the young people. I spoke a little bit earlier to my guest that will be joining me shortly, saying that us as the older generation did what we did, and unfortunately now the youth has to pick up where we left off. And that is not a very good track record, I must say. Scientists have been warning for decades about the oncoming disaster that will come if we don't change our ways. We've seen it recently in the Western Cape with a severe flooding, and that is exactly what has been predicted over the past few decades, that we'll see more intense weather systems making its way through many parts of Africa, which will of course be the most severe hit when climate change reaches its peak. But to speak to us about the hope for the future, we have a young person to join us now, and she's Dr. Tobeko Zondi. She's a researcher at the Human Science Research Council. Doctor, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, it's the first time that the youth is involved in this summit. How did you come to an agreement as the youth counterparts on what you need to tell the summit?
Thank you for having me. A special greeting to you and the viewers. So the Youth Declaration is very important to us, mainly for several reasons. One of the reasons is that it's going to be amplifying the voice of the youth. So basically what we are doing as the youth, as much as I can't divulge many information because we are presenting the declaration on Friday, but this is a platform whereby the youth can come together to put down their demands, because we know what our challenges are and we know the solutions. The youth bring about urgency, and we have a passion, and we are wanting to drive the conversation towards addressing climate change.
Now, what was some of the research you've been doing in the lead up to this summit? There must have been a lot of work that has gone into this. Can you talk to us a little bit about your research and some of the findings, maybe?
All right, maybe I can share a little bit. I'm from the Human Sciences Research Council, and we are conducting research on climate change. So we do go around the country trying to get an understanding of what people understand that climate change is. And it's so unfortunate that in a South African context, you are dealing with like competing challenges. So we have high unemployment rates, many challenges, and so sometimes environmental issues are sometimes just pushed towards the end of the list. So now our job is to come in and raise awareness about what climate change is, make an impact in terms of environmental and educational curricula, put it into schools, go around and share. And one of the things that young people can do to take part in addressing climate change is basically to use their creativity, to use their social media, and to share the information and talk about climate change more amongst the other challenges that we are facing as a country.
Now, you say you can't divulge much of the declaration, but can you perhaps speak to some of the grave concerns that the youth have about climate change?
So one of the issues that came up a lot in our declaration and in our negotiation and drafting the declaration is that the youth sometimes struggle with getting access to information. They struggle with just even knowing what educational modules to take in schools. So it's all about visibility, and it's all about making sure that the youth is included in decision-making processes, because we are the leaders of tomorrow. We are the leaders of today, and we say that we want to be included in decision-making processes. Let it not be, can we not be sidelined? Can we not be put onto the side? Can we be included? Can our voices be heard? And this youth declaration is providing that platform for us to talk and amplify our voices.
Speaking to that, do you feel that the youth has not been represented thoroughly and enough? Because as you say, you are the future. We've had our turn. So how can the youth become more involved? How should they be more involved on a national and international level?
Yes, so what we've noticed is that youth around the globe is already participating in like holistic methods or ideas in terms of addressing climate change. And for South African youth is that sometimes we feel that we are sidelined and we're not included. We always see, the older generation in like key, like high stakeholder, positions, and the youth is sometimes not included. So with this youth declaration, what we're saying is that we want to be included and we want to partner up with key stakeholders that are going to help us and drive the responses towards addressing climate change. And there are many different key stakeholders that we can partner up with. It's all about inclusivity, it's all about working across disciplines, and it's all about coming together and trying to find new ideas, because what we're saying is that we acknowledge that you are the key experts. You know what's been happening. It's been happening for the longest time. Yeah. But here we are as the youth. We have new passions, new ideas. We bring a fresh perspective towards addressing climate change. And a whole lot more will be shared on Friday, where we will be divulging that information.
Thank you. I understand that you say that more will be divulged, but you were saying on the ground, there are so many challenges in South Africa, but the reality is that climate change will and is starting to hit Africa the worst. Do you think that people understand that, and should more be done to let people understand that?
Yes, I'd say that more people now are actually acknowledging and recognizing that we are in a crisis and the climate is changing. We've been seeing that in floods in Cape Town, there's droughts around the country, and South African citizens have this local ecological knowledge of saying that, hey, this crop here, it's like dry. There's no water anymore. There's a drought. So they are able to put one and one together. But now the scientific term that it is climate change, they do not have an understanding of that. And I think this is where researchers can come in and play a role in terms of doing the research, sharing their findings, and distributing it towards the whole of South Africa. So it's not just about youth as well, but it's also about community engagements as well, and just taking part in all of these decision-making processes to try and curb climate change, and just sharing information as well.
You are one of the future leaders. What would you like to see South Africa look like in 10 years' time in terms of this issue and addressing it?
Oh, wow. That is a very difficult question. But we do have ideas around what we want to see South Africa as in 10 years from now. And one of the major things, and that both come up in the declaration, inclusivity and collaboration. That is what we want. We want to be part of decision-making processes. We want to be put in tables where we're able to share our experiences, because we are on the ground. We know what's happening. We know what our challenges are. They're right in front of us. As we had mentioned on Monday, that climate change is going to become it actually is a pressing issue.
Yes.
And it needs to be dealt with unprecedented speed. Yeah.
How would you address it if you had the power to address it right now?
Well, one of the most important things, or something that lies closely to me, is that South Africans have this notion that they cannot make a difference as an individual, and that maybe governments or corporations need to deal with this big mess. However, I'm saying that as an individual, we are the change that we want to see. And just taking those tiny steps as to not litter, do not consume, do not waste. Those little tiny steps does play a big role. And obviously educating others that are around us that, hey, climate change is happening and we can do something about it as an individual.
Thank you so very, very much. That was Dr. Thobeka Zondi, a researcher at the Human Science Research Council, talking to us there passionately about the issue of climate change. As she said, it's happening already. What has been warned about for decades is finally here. We saw it in the Western Cape. Over the last 3 months, we had 2 severe flooding events that broke all existing records in terms of the number of rainfall that came. And as the scientists predicted, we will have all our rain in the span of 2 days. And now it's up to the young people to find a way to live with this, to adapt to it, because at this stage, there's no clarity whether or not this can be turned around, other than just trying to adapt to what is happening around the world and what we can certainly feel here in South Africa as well. And our hope lies in people like the good doctor that we spoke to a little bit earlier.